Trey, how you doing? Man, a lot of people in here named Trey. Hey, let me just explain that. Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate that. Perfect. I am willing to wear my t-shirt even when my team gets beat like they don't play football. So, I'm a proud fan. Huh? Yeah, we don't care about Alabama here. Just kidding. Hey, how's everybody doing? Doesn't Cliff make a good-looking bald guy? Can't answer that. I could answer that. Then I would have to run out of the room. Leaving a mark that will last forever. What does the word forever mean? Forever. What else does forever mean? Long, long time. What do you know of in your life that takes forever? Traffic takes forever. Were you ever in traffic that took forever? Just checking. What? Losing weight. Man, I'm right in the room. Dave, you ain't got to talk about me like that. Come on. Your 21st birthday took forever? I wish. What? Finding a job can take forever. What else? Laundry. The never-ending infinity. Oh, so many jokes, so little time. How about waiting on your food sometimes at a restaurant? Sometimes that takes forever, Mickey. How about, let me just think through some of my ideas that I had here. Oh, how many of you still have dial-up internet at your house? What? What's that mean? How long does it take you to get online? About 7 days? You go in there and flip it on, hit the button and go get you some dinner, come back. Hit one more button, go get lunch, come back, that kind of stuff. $10 a month, that makes it worth waiting, doesn't it? That's what my wife felt like until I had to make the change, because in my home, I couldn't get on the computer if it was dial-up. I would like throw it out the window and stuff. That's never, ever good. Let me tell you the truth. Do you know none of that stuff? This is why I asked you, you said traffic, and I asked if you'd ever been in traffic that took you forever, which would technically mean no, because you wouldn't be here tonight. You'd still be in traffic, right? Because, oh, they're waiting? They're holding your spot? Because truthfully, even if you go to a restaurant, John Mark, and you order your burger and you sit there for 47 minutes and you feel like it takes forever, it really only took 47 minutes. True? Now, in the burger world, that's forever. Do you know, by the way, when you order pizza and they tell you it's going to be like 900 minutes, it takes 7 minutes to make a pizza. Okay, just going to throw that out there for you. From now on, when you call them, it'll be 4 days. Next Tuesday, I'll get that to you. They're going to make it in 7 minutes. I just want you to know. You got to figure traffic. Then you're going to stop and do some laundry. Make sure they do all that kind of stuff. But when you start talking about leaving a mark in this world that lasts forever, you know, my children have a tendency to make marks in our home that seem to last forever. Anybody in your homes have like permanent marker on any certain wall that it wasn't supposed to be there? How many of you have lost a marker board because your child just started writing in that permanent black marker and they're like, oh, that'll come off? And it didn't? Because it's permanent and it doesn't come off? But you know what? Even that mark won't last forever. It just won't. I've left all kinds of marks in my life and all kinds of mistakes. I remember my apartment in college when I had all the teenagers over one night because I was working in the youth ministry and we all started wrestling and tore a hole in the wall about this size, you know, about that size, which by the way, was a pretty big hole. I remember when I was in college, I went home one time and my parents had bought a new house. They pulled that trick where they moved and didn't tell anybody. My parents tried to pull that off. I came home early, and I pulled in the driveway, and my mother is standing there, beautiful home, huge, long driveway, just got it all paved and everything. And I decide to get in my truck as I leave, and what do you do on a new driveway? You just stomp on it. And you leave as big of a mark on that driveway as you possibly can, right? I thought my mother was going to come through the window of my truck and rip my head apart, because I had just left my mark on her brand new white driveway. All kinds of marks we leave in this world, but only one way we can leave a mark that lasts forever. And that is when you leave a mark on somebody's life that affects their eternity. Because really, what is forever? What is forever? How long is forever? It's eternity. How many of you believe that you'll spend eternity forever right here on this planet? I know when you were in traffic, you thought so. You're like, eternity right here. In my car, nothing to eat, eternity. But the truth is, every one of us at some point in time in our lives, that life will end, and we will step from this life into eternity. And we will be someplace after we leave this place forever. And once you get to that spot, and once you begin to recognize that forever really does mean eternity, then you begin to think back, oh, I should not have beaten my kid for that mark, because you know what? That mark on the wall is gone now. Or I shouldn't have worried so much about traffic, because you know what? That traffic was nothing compared to how long I'm going to be right here. Because things that last forever only deal with your eternity. And when I began to study this and look through this kind of stuff, the truth came out that the only thing we can do that lasts forever is something that affects people's eternity. Something that affects where they go when they leave this planet. The problem is, I don't think we recognize that. I think we, in our world, we are so concerned about traffic and laundry and getting kids to school and doing our jobs that last forever and doing this and that and all these other things that we feel like are forever. We forget that the thing we're supposed to be doing in our lives is to make an impact, to make a mark on somebody's life that will determine where they spend eternity. And I was reading this book. Mickey actually gave me a book, which Mickey and I eat lunch together a lot, but I don't think either one of us have ever shared a book with the other guy, so I was kind of amazed by that. But I read a book, and he was talking about, one of the quotes was out of Forrest Gump, and it says this: do we have a destiny, or are we all just floating around kind of accidental-like? Do we have a destiny, or are we all just kind of floating around accidentally? And when I began to look at that quote and this message, the question comes up: are you here to help people determine eternity, or are you floating around? And you just happen to show up at this time in your life, happen to show up at this time in history, happen to be here at this point in time, all coincidence, and one day your life will end and you will step into eternity as well, and you weren't here for anything other than to just kind of float around and impact whoever bumps into you. I believe the majority of us live our lives concerned about our stuff, and we live our lives in our daily walk concerned about the things that we think take forever. And the majority of time, we do not spend looking around going, how can I help other people determine where they're going to spend eternity? And I want you to see something in the verse that we've read here 1,000 times. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11 says this: for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. God has a plan for you. And just that verse alone, that's kind of the staple verse at XL, but just that verse alone tells you that it is not you sitting here accidentally. You didn't just happen. You weren't just born one day, nobody knew why, you're just kind of there and you just kind of grow up and you're just kind of here. God has a plan for you. Now listen to me. Even if you're sitting here tonight and you don't have a relationship with Christ yet, we understand that. That's why we do what we do, to help you see that. But even if you've never, ever given your life to Christ and you don't even want a part of it yet, God put you on this planet on purpose and has a plan for you too. You okay there? Got some indigestion? But God has a plan. And when we live our lives in a way that we think, you know what, it just doesn't really matter, we're just kind of floating through this deal, what we're basically saying is, God, you know what, you said that you had a plan, but you really don't. And I'm just going to kind of get up every morning and live until I go to bed at night and see what happens in the daytime. Jeremiah 29:11, he's got a plan. Ephesians 1:4 says, for he chose us, this is God, he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. Do you know that you walk around in your world every day thinking that you're worthless and you think that you're just kind of here accidentally, and the scripture says that God chose you before he made the world? God knew you. Well, Jared, that's impossible. I wasn't even here yet. You were here to God. Because God has the unbelievable ability to see everything that will ever happen. And he's already seen the end of the whole thing. That's the God that you serve. And what he says is he chose you before he ever started putting in place the big ball we call earth, and before he ever put animals on it, before he ever brought water to it, before he ever brought this and that and created light, all these things, he had already picked you to live for him. It makes it very difficult, Ken, for me to live my life thinking I'm just kind of here, when I know without a question that God put me here on purpose. He has a plan for me, and he picked me. And Ephesians 1:4 tells us that clearly. He chose us before the creation of the world. But here's the deal, guys. We got one shot. I don't know if you know this or not, but you're not a cat. You don't have 9 lives. You got one. I do know that cats do have 9 lives because the cats in my neighborhood, they come back. It don't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you hit them with. I'm just saying, them cats will come back. I think they haunting me. You don't have that. You got one life God gave you. And one opportunity to make a difference with it. And I can tell you, some of you, I have, you know our target here, but we reach everybody from all ages, and that is really, really cool, awesome to us. The thing I'm going through is next year in May is my 40th birthday. Yeah, thanks. And here's the deal. I'm way into the whole midlife crisis thing. Like, I've got it planned out, when it's going to start, what I'm going to do wrong, what I'm going to do right, what I'm going to spend, you know. And that will be in that 40th birthday period, during that major midlife crisis, Mickey. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a lot of stuff. And I'm going to eat a lot of stuff. I probably won't eat a whole Harley Davidson, but I'll get close. Maybe I'll get me a Harley Davidson cake or something, and then I'll go buy me a motorcycle after that. But that's what I'm looking at, because I've got this whole, hey, you're turning 40 thing. But here's what I really do think sometimes. Okay, dude, you're turning 40. What have you done? That's really the definition of the midlife crisis. It's not really just that you go out and buy something you can't afford and you didn't need in the first place. It really is, you get to this point in your life where you think you're about done, and you begin to look back and go, okay, man, you're turning 40. What have you done? What have you done in your life that'll make a difference forever? And you start to look back, and even the cool things that God has done through you, those don't register because you're like in pity mode, you know? Because when you get to that pity party, you're the only one that shows up for the party, and you kind of have to sit there, and you're just kind of walking through stuff, and God's trying to encourage you, and you're like, oh, no, not really, God. That's not me. And you just have to go through that kind of junk until you buy something expensive. I think that's a philosophy. But what I am learning is I only got one shot. And whether I live to be 42 or 82 or 102, I still only got one shot. And this is the only life that God has given me. And I want to know what I'm doing every day to affect people's eternity. Because truthfully, I can leave a lot of other marks on people's life. I can encourage them. I can do this and I can do that. I could, make money. I could steal money, whatever you need to do, really. We can do a lot of things that leave marks. But what are you doing in your life that leaves a mark that lasts forever? What are you really doing? because you will get to that point where you begin to think about that. I was reading in that same book, and they did a survey of a bunch of senior adults that were 95 years old and up. And they asked a question in the book. He was wondering how they actually got all those people together, and I didn't really know either. But they got them together, and they asked them the question, if you could do it all over again, what would you change? And these are their three responses. One, I would reflect more, which I think coming from a 95-year-old is pretty funny, because they got lots of reflecting going on. Two, I would risk more. And number three, I would do something with my life that would live on long after I was dead. Those are the three things. If the people that are 95 years old are asking these questions, what would you do? I'd do something with my life that would live on long after I am gone. Those are the kind of deals you do that last forever. But they only last forever if they're dealing with people's eternity. That book that Mickey gave me was the whole concept was the making ripples. And when you jump into a swimming pool, some of you, you like to walk up to a pool and you stick your toe in it and you're like, oh, that's cold, I'm staying out. Or you kind of walk in slowly and it takes 7 days for you to get actually in the water, and then you're done, you got to go and you're still freezing. Others of you just like to go as loud and crazy as possible, cannonball it, and jump right in. How many of you are that person? You're just like, if you're getting in, you might as well get in all the way. Have you ever noticed that when you do that, if you're, like my size or anything, everybody around you pays for that? You know what I'm saying? Because there's like nobody sitting around all dry after I do the cannonball. But here's the deal. In your life, the way that you live is the same concept. You jump into a pool, and the ripple effect goes all the way through that swimming pool. When you live your life, the ripple effect of your life affects everyone around you. No matter how you're living, if you're living at all, you have an effect on the people around you. The question is always, and it is tonight, what kind of effect are you having, and does that effect have something to do with their eternity? Here's the way you make it. You have an impact that actually makes a difference in their life and can actually live forever. Number one, have something to offer. You know what the only thing in the world is that you could give someone that's going to last and last and last for eternity? What is that? That's Jesus. The only thing you will ever give to anyone that lasts for eternity is a relationship with Jesus. And I'm not saying you're going to save them. I'm not saying you're going to put Jesus in their heart, but for you to offer Jesus to them is the only thing you're ever going to do that makes a difference. But you know what? You cannot offer what you do not have. No matter how good of a person you are, no matter how nice of a guy you are, you cannot give away something you do not have in your life. So if you are ready to, I want to make an impact on this world that lasts forever, the first thing you've got to recognize is you got to have Jesus. Because you can't make an impact without the source for that impact. You got to have Jesus Christ in your life. Number two thing is, it's pretty simple stuff because I'm a simple guy. Have something to offer and share him often. Have something to offer and share him often. Philemon chapter 1 verse 6 says, I pray that you may be active in sharing your faith so that you will have a full understanding of every good thing we have in Christ. My prayer is that you will be active in telling other people about Jesus so that you can truly understand who Jesus is. So the deal you've got to do tonight, first of all, you've got to make sure that you know Christ. And then in order to make a real difference in people's lives, you've got to begin to share Christ. What does that mean, Jared? I've just barely met Christ. I don't even know how to share him yet. You start talking about what Jesus has done in you, and your friends will begin to ask you questions about how he can do that in them. And I want to show you just a little bit. I want to display for you how the ripple effect takes place, okay? Jason, leave the light board and come up here with me for just a second. Turn it up really bright so you can see how it looks, by the way, when you get there. Gina, come on up. Gina, come on up here. Many moons ago, I was sitting on a dock at a friend of mine's lake house, and I'm asking God what we should do at XL. and what the series should be, what kind of things we should be doing. And it was one of those great times where I had time to actually walk through some planning stages. Y'all come on over. Stay in the light now. Walk through some planning stages, and one of those things was the ridiculous idea to pimp somebody's car. And I'm sitting on that dock, and I'm writing that down. I'm like, for real? And God says, yeah, for real, you're going to do that. And I say, okie dokie. And then I come back and tell these two people, and I tell James Wisner, who's not with us anymore, that we're going to do this. Gina, what'd you think? It's pretty crazy. I want to share, and we deal with this series a lot, but I'm going to show you the ripple effect. Because here's what happens after we meet and have this whole concept. Is Chris Wright here anywhere? I call Chris Wright and say, I'm going to do this to a car, and I need somebody to put a sound system in it. What should I do? He says to me, call Brian Pelfrey. Brian, come on up. Brian's got his Octane sound shirt on tonight, going to advertise a little bit. I go to Brian at World Hi-Fi, and I say to Brian, here's the deal, Brian. I'm with a church called XL. It's a new thing we got going. It's for people that really don't want to go to church in a traditional setting. And he says, oh, yeah, well, you know you got to go to church somewhere. And I say, Brian, trust me, just give me a shot. Here's what I want to do. I want to give you money to help us with a car. Is that right? That was one of Brian's selling points, because most people come to him and say, hey, can you give me something for free? I actually offered to pay for something. Rocked his world. He says to me, do you have somebody to do the interior? And I say, no, man, I'm here. I got nothing. And he says, call Jason. Jason, come on up. Jason is the one that did the entire interior of the car and pretty much just rocked my entire world with what he could do with that car and how he could change that. But in this process, also a friend of Brian's is Randy Todd, who he invited to come. So, Randy, you come on up here. And Randy, as far as I know, didn't do a whole lot of work on the car, but we'll let him come on stage anyway, right, Randy? Now, in this process, I want you to understand that we baptized all three of these gentlemen and all three of their wives. So just come on up here. Come on. You can actually come around and stand with your husband if you'd like to. And here's the ripple effect, ladies and gentlemen. Last week, 2 weeks ago now, Randy calls me. And he says, Jared, I got a friend that I talked to after XL the other night, and I just shared my heart with him and my story. And he says to me that he wants to become a Christian, and you and I need to meet with him tomorrow and talk about that. So Randy and I go to the only place that God can work like that and go to the Sonic. And we meet his buddy Cody, and Cody climbs in my truck and prays to receive Christ at the Sonic that day. Listen to me, guys. That's the ripple effect. That's from me, and I'm not taking any pride in this because I'm an idiot, but I'm sitting on a dock someplace, and God says, hey, do this. It'll be crazy. And I come back and go, hey, that's crazy. Let's give that a shot. I tell these two people and one more, and all of those people are going to heaven because of it. You follow me? Now, some of them have dealt with Jesus before. Some of them just needed to get baptized. Some of them needed to give their lives to Christ for the very first time ever. But God did that. And God has taken not only that, but them even further. And I can say to you that Brian Pelfrey right there in the middle has probably invited more people to XL than any of us, maybe all of us combined. Because that's what God does. When you allow him to live through you and allow him to change other people's lives as you go. That's the ripple effect. Thank you, guys. Y'all can go sit down. I wanted you to see that because here's another deal. The Man series had the same kind of stuff. We've got a tournament coming up. We're going to do a Halo 3 tournament. I've never played it. I don't even know what its stinking looks like. But you know what? I don't care. Because Randy over there is the master of Halo 1, 2, and 3 as soon as he starts it tomorrow night. But we're going to do a Halo tournament for people that play that game all the time. And we're going to put them in here. We're going to stack every TV we've got and let them play as long as it takes. Why? Because we want to do things in people's lives that affect their eternity. I don't just want to do stuff in people's lives to affect their Sunday night. We'll quit today if all we're doing is affecting people's Sunday nights. Because you know what? If that's all we're doing, we can all go home, watch some football. Eat something, we'll be fine. But when God says do something that affects people's eternity, that means we're going to come here and do that. But that also means that as you live your life every day, find a way to affect people's eternity around you. How do you do that? You get all of Jesus Christ in your life that you can possibly stand, and you start giving it out, one little bit at a time. And people's lives will be changed because of what you are doing and because of what God is doing through you. Is that for me? You hear me? Lives will be changed, and eternity will be changed. And listen, that's the only kind of impact you can have that's going to last forever. Because you can make a lot of money, you can do a lot of neat things, you can give a lot of stuff away. But if it doesn't introduce anybody to Jesus, it's not going to last forever. And our goal is that everything we do at XL to be about changing people's eternity. And my goal for you is everything you do in your life every day is about changing people's eternity. And we'll see what God does from all that. Come on up, guys.